Good afternoon, everybody. This is Robert Weichelt with another episode of Weichelt Wednesday. Today, I have my very special guest, my mentor, Bob Mangold. Bob, how are you?
Man, if I got any better, I'd burst.
That's awesome. Well, let's get right to it. Who's Bob Mangold?
Oh, I've been doing this real estate and mortgage thing for, actually, this is the 30th year. So 30 years ago, I got into the mortgage business first, then got into the real estate business about 7 years later. Owned a couple of exit realty franchises, had my own independent brokerage for a while, and had my own mortgage company. So I've pretty much done everything in the real estate side, from lending to having teams to having companies, to having mortgage teams. And now I just do a ton of consulting with realtors and lenders on how to grow a business.
Wow, that's great, man. You've got a serious background. Our paths have basically crossed professionally in terms of real estate and lending background. Let's talk about the lending opportunities that we have in place. Let's talk about Nexa Mortgage.
Okay. So the biggest thing right now, in my opinion, that LOs face is that they're coming out of a refi boom that's been in place for about 3 years. And what's very typical in the lending business, which is the opposite of what I teach LOs to do, but they focus on refis and they forget about purchase. And then when the refi market dries up like it is, then guess what? Now they got to go out and figure out how to be a purchase agent, LO again. And that's usually a pretty big lift for people, especially, when they're targeting real estate agents. Let's full disclosure, real estate agents understand you've ignored them for the last 3 years. And now suddenly you're back in the market going, hey, I'm here to help you, right? They realize, how hypocritical that is, and they resent it. And so at the end of the day, what I've taught for years and years and years is that the way you pay or live your life on your income is that your purchase business always supports your lifestyle. And when refi booms come, that's the money that you use to put away and maybe start investing in, things like real estate, where you have appreciation and cash flow and tax deductions. But you do that with the refi income instead of, hey, living really large for 3 years. Right? You make a bunch of money, then you go out and spend it on really nice cars and everything. And then when the market tanks, then we see people in trouble again. I just don't think that's a logical, prudent way. Now, listen, we can look back historically and see these waves of refi in and out all the time, right? So they come and go, and everybody thinks they're going to last forever, and I'm going to make $1 gazillion forever, instead of saying, hey, let me put a very solid purchase-focused business in place. And when refis come, hey, I'll take that. But that becomes the money that I use to buy assets. And I think that's the biggest thing in LOs facing right now. The second headache that most struggle with is, what is it that I do that's different? Because it's the same question that every realtor should have, every lender has. What is it that compels people to work with you? What do you do that other people don't do? And typically, we give good service, we give good rates, right? I was just at this massive presentation, about 30,000 people at it. And the lender comes out on stage and says, well, here, we know we have to give you good rates. We know we have to give you good service. So that's who we are. And I'm going, oh my God, I've heard this for 30 years. Can nobody come up with something better than that? So what I teach my LOs is kind of a simple thing. If I'm going to talk to a realtor, it's like, hey, Robert, Bob with Nexa here. Hey, the reason I'm calling, man, are you guys accepting new listings? Well, every agent on the planet's going to say yes, right? And what we do is we figure out marketing systems and strategies to help an LO be able to do that, and go, well, great. Hey, if I could help you do an extra 2 or 3 listings every month, would you want to have coffee? There isn't a realtor on the planet, right? You're one that's going to say no to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so you have to have different, unique strategies to be able to do that. And then finally, the biggest struggle, just like real estate agents have, you're as good as your last deal. And if something happens and you weren't able to produce, what happens to your income? And so what I teach everybody is, hey, have a 3-year plan that we can say in 3 years that you could replace your transaction income with referral fee income. So that whether you were working or not, you were earning, and you were earning enough money that would allow you to pay your living expenses. Now, if we get it to that point, further past that, then we take that referral fee income, just like refi income, and that's what we use to start purchasing assets. So obviously I'm jaded towards real estate, But the reality of it is it's got three factors that most other investments don't have, that I get appreciation, I get cash flow, and I get tax deduction. And at some point, you can accumulate enough assets that not only do you take care of your family as it is here and now, but you can set them up for generations to come if you do that right. And the Nexa comp plan and the way that it works allows you the ability to build that referral fee income. And it's not available at other lenders. And so that's really what I believe are the three biggest obstacles that a lender faces right now.
So let me ask you this. You touched on some really big things that maybe the mortgage industry is not really used to hearing. You talked about residual. You talked about if you're only as good as your last transaction. What if that transaction pool was to stop? What's the message that we want to say to the LO that maybe was, really heavily involved in the refi market, or maybe wants to take their business to the next level? What's the message for those LOs?
So ultimately, what I teach LOs, and I've been teaching this for decades, that really you need to become like a financial advisor to people, right? And so there are times refi makes sense, there are times it doesn't. Well, if it doesn't make sense, don't do it. Help people get ahead. Well, the very first people, it's kind of like on the plane where they say, hey, if the mask drop, take care of your mask first, then do the kids. It's the same idea. You need to position yourself financially so that you can lead by example and that you have credibility. So the very first place that I start is like, well, let's look at your finances first. And how do we make that transition to you being in a place where you can start to invest and protect your family first? Because at the end of the day, this is about how do I set my family up for success, right? Whether you have kids now or you don't have kids, whatever it is, how do you set your family up for generations? And if you're not doing that for yourself, how in the world could you guide anybody else? Because guys, if you think about it, you don't have any unique characteristics. Interest rates are interest rates. And if you allow people to just say, hey, who's got the best rate? Well, you truly are a commodity and you offer no value to the customer. And as I spoke at an event yesterday, and I talked about the number one word that realtors and lenders, really every business has to think about is value. What value do you provide? How are people's lives better because they're around you based on what you provide for them? So if you just provide an interest rate or a loan, I can go anywhere and do that, right? But I've got to provide value. Well, that value is financial education. Well, let's start with you first and teach you first how to do it. Then we can help others do it, because we have to decommoditize both the real estate agent and the lender. And that's really what it comes down to. So that word is value. What value do you provide? If I work with you and you're in my life somehow, what value do you provide? Other than, hey, I like hanging out and having a cocktail with you or whatever. That only lasts so long.
Sure. And what I hear here is, what is your unique selling proposition? Rates and loans, everybody has just about the same rates, same loans, same everything. What's your unique selling proposition? What makes you stand out? And how can you, the loan officer, help that agent grow their business? You mentioned, is that loan officer helping you get more transactions? Are they helping you grow your team?
Right.
And that's huge.
And it's just something completely different. Then the next step to that is, okay, well, that's my unique value proposition when I go out to an agent. Well, what is it when I talk to a borrower, right? What is it that you do? So, you've got people sitting or lenders sitting at your open house, and they just sit there doing paperwork instead of getting up and talking to a consumer about what value they can, provide. And so literally kind of the scripting that I teach is, hey, we get them to just ask the person, hey, what do you think of this house? The truth is, I don't care if they say, I love it, I hate it. Doesn't matter. They go, I hate it. Cool. Is this the neighborhood you're looking at? Yeah. Is this the price range? Yes. Hey, cool. Has your lender or realtor showed you how to buy a house like this, assuming it's a $475,000 house, showed you how to buy a house in this price range using a 30-year fixed rate mortgage and get it paid off in 7 to 10 years? Now, what that would mean for you, Robert, is that there's $566,000 that are available. It either goes to the bank or it goes to you. What I do is I work with people to put it in their pocket instead of the bank, because I'm assuming that $566,000 would be better in your bank account than the bank's, right?
Absolutely.
So if I could do that for you and show you how to do that on a home in this price, are you open to working with me?
Oh, the answer would always be yes.
Right. And go right for the kill. Stop this, pussyfooting around. Well, let me check rates for you and do all this. Well, then you're just a rate shopper.
No.
What value do you provide? Because when you ask that question, the way that I give it, I can tell you, I've been using that for about 22, 23 years. Nobody's ever said no to me or the people that I've trained. Right? Because it's a question. How do you say no to that? Now, you have to be able to back it up, which obviously we can.
Sure.
And show that. But we have all the data and everything on how to do that right there while we're in front of them, right? You're belly to belly with a potential buyer. It's the greatest time to be able to convert that into business. You have to be ready for that. You have to have something different for that.
Absolutely.
And so that's what I teach is how do you separate yourself from the pack?
And that's you've really touched on some bases, because there's a lot of, lenders have just finished up with a pretty robust refinance market. And a lot of lenders are looking for ways to grow their business and stay in the business and, maybe keep that level of income at what it is. So what's the message? What's our call to action for the loan officer that's watching this?
So 2 things. Number 1, start to focus on purchase business as a long-term strategy. Mm-hmm. It's not hit and miss. It's not, hey, until the refi market comes back, I'm going to deal with this. And listen, guys, as a realtor and a lender, I can tell you, I get the realtors are a piece of work to deal with. I get that. But here's the cool part. If I ask you a question that I know you have to say yes to, then I know I could go out and work with whatever real estate agent I want, right? So if they're nasty to you up front, just next. I don't think we're going to be a good mix. Next. Because you don't have to worry about, well, where do I find business when you have a unique strategy going forward? So number 1, focus on that. And secondly, reach out to us. And let's schedule a time where we can chat and talk about a structure where we can start building that purchase business together and then build that referral income together so that money comes in, whether you close the deal today or not. I mean, can you think about that concept as an LO or a realtor that I got paid today, even if I didn't close a transaction? What would your life be like then? So just reach out. We'll do a consultation with you. We'll walk you through. If it works for you, great. If it doesn't, great. What I can tell you with 100% certainty is pretty much everyone that I talk to makes substantially more money within this business model than you are currently. And I get the, hey, I love my broker and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, can we agree, like your fiduciary responsibility is to your family first? Mm-hmm. And so you and I talked about, we did one of these calls yesterday, and the person made $31,000 a month, excuse me, more money doing the exact same work. Why would you not do that?
That's a big deal. That's a lot of money extra.
Yeah. Hey, mortgage people, we work with numbers all day. $31,000 a month, that's $360,000 a year to do the same volume you're doing right now. And have the ability to take and start building referral fee income into your business. Why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah. Well, I tell you, we've touched on a lot of things, and I know we're going to continue this conversation, but I appreciate your time today, Bob. And we've got some good stuff. So if you're watching this, click the link below. Let's schedule a time. Let's see what works for you. Let us crunch the numbers and get the calculator out, because calculators don't lie. Let's look at the calculators. Let's really take a look at it and see how we can take your business to the next level. This is Robert Weichelt with Bob Mangold for another episode of Weichelt Wednesday.
Thanks for having me, Robert. Always fun.
Always a pleasure, my friend.
I look forward to talking to you guys.